Hey everybody, and welcome to Google Plus Developers Live. Come code with us. I'm Joanna Smith, and I'm a Google Plus Developer Programs Engineer.
And I'm Silvano Luciani, and I'm also a Developer Programs Engineer for Google Plus. And what we want to do today is show to you how easy it is to integrate the Google Plus sign-in in your application by doing some live coding demo.
So we're very excited to do that, but before we begin, I want to mention once again our Google Plus sign-in bootcamps that are happening all around the globe. Silvano and I are both very, very stoked to be able to participate in this, and we are actually looking at 9 cities, 5 continents, 5 weeks, 180 partners, 8.5 time zones, and I'm only going to bring 1 pair of shoes.
Wow, Google engineer truly loves numbers, huh?
I think we do. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we need to do is create a project on the Google APIs console. And many of you have already seen our explicit instructions for this, but we want to show you once again how to do it. And we're going to create a client ID for our web application, and then we're going to enable the Google Plus API for our project. Silvano, take it away.
So let's navigate to the console, which you can reach by developers.google.com/console. And when you are in the console, you can see on the top left there is a selection box where all your projects are listed and all the actions that you can do are listed. And in this case, we want to create a brand new project for our demo. And let's call it Demo GDL. And this is a name that you can use to remind what the project is about. After we've done this, the console is creating our project. Our project is now ready. And now we need to enable the Google Plus service. So we just scroll the list down to Google Plus API, and then we click on, and it's done. When you will do this for the first time, you will be shown the terms of service of the Google Plus API. Please read our terms of service carefully before enabling the service.
We are going to hold you to them.
So now that this is done, the last step is create the client ID, and that's really, really easy. Just go to API Access, see the big blue button, create an auth to client ID, click it. At this point, we need to input the branding information. So this is what your users will see when they are shown the consent dialog by Google. So please use a meaningful name for your app, use a product logo, which I'm not doing now for the sake of the demo, and also add a homepage URL for your application. In the next page, we can choose which type of application the client ID is for. Our demo is a web app, so it's a web application. And very important, your site or hostname, this will be used to authorize your website as an authorized origin for our JavaScript. So careful with the scheme, which is important, and careful with the hostname. In the case of our demo, this is localhost. And it's done. Create client ID, and we are ready to go.
And at this point, it's actually very, very easy to go ahead and extend your app to use other Google services as well. For example, to add the Google Drive API to your project, all you have to do is enable that under the Services tab, and later on add the correct scope.
Let me show it. It's faster.
All right, go ahead.
So if you go to Services, once again, let's scroll to Drive SDK. Let's click on, and we're ready to go. We can use Google Drive.
And so you see, it's really easy to get access to all of our Google services. All right, so let's go ahead and start coding.
Yeah, let's see some code now. As you can see, this is a very basic skeleton of our HTML page. We will now fill in the empty spaces using code snippets from our documentation site. And as you will see, there's very little that you need to do. So let's go to our documentation on the Google Plus sign-in, and you will find the steps for the configuration that we just showed to you. Create client ID, create client secret. And now the first thing that we need to do in our code is load our JavaScript. So we can just copy the snippet and paste it in our source.
These snippets actually are littered throughout our entire documentation, and we did that intentionally to make it as easy as possible for all of our developers. And of course, if you want more details, you can always check out our samples to see more context for how they're used. But we'd love your feedback on if these are helpful or if these need work. Definitely let us know, because we're trying to make sure integration is simple for all of you.
So let me make this a bit more tidy. And now the second step, we need to actually place the button in the page. And again, we have a snippet ready to do this for you. So let's copy it. Let's paste it in the body of the HTML page. As you can see, the snippet comes pre-configured with some of the parameters that you will need. There is only one change that you need to do at this point, and is using your client ID, the one that we just created. So let's go back to the API console. Let's go back to the API access pane. Oops. Sorry. And now I can copy my client ID and paste it back in the source code.
Now, Silvano, since we're pretty much ready to go, can you take a moment to explain what these other attributes mean?
Yes, of course. So the class, which you can see is g-signin, is the most important one, because using this specific class, g-signin, you're telling a library that when the DOM is finished loading, all the elements with this class should be rendered as a sign-in button. The callback, as we will see in a second, is what will be called after the outflow has been executed. And that's where you decide, for instance, if a login has been successful and you take actions as hiding the sign-in button, or if there have been problems in the login. So, for instance, the user has clicked cancel instead of accept, and you can show them a message saying, you will need to click accept if you want to do more stuff with my app. Client ID, we already saw it. Cookie policy, it's an advanced parameter. You can find a lot of documentation on it on our site. For now, just stick with single host origin for the sake of this demo, and we will probably do another GDL just on this, another sign in and sign out related topic.
Yes, definitely.
Request visible actions is you know that your app will be able to write app activities to the app activity stream of your user, and this is where you can specify which types of app activities the app will be able to write.
And we actually have a selection of 10 different app activity types right now, and they're all based on schema.org. But if you can't find one that perfectly suits your needs, let us know in the issue tracker, and we'll definitely be considering new app activity types, just as we were considering new moment types during our developer preview for history. So just keep us informed.
And last, we have the scope parameter, which in this case is just asking for authorization for the plus.login scope. But at this point, we can add drive here, for instance. So I don't remember the drive scope. Let me go to the drive docs. Drive, they have a lot of different scopes to let you have a fine-grained control on what the app can do. We will just take the umbrella one. And if you want to specify more scopes, you just need to separate them with space and add it to this parameter. And we are almost set. The only thing that is missing, as we mentioned before, is a callback, so that we can do something after the authentication flow has been executed. Once again, in our docs, we have a snippet ready for you.
And this is a very simple callback function. You should definitely be customizing and enhancing it for your own app. But it's here for you to get started, and that's our goal right now, is to help you get started on your integration and see how simple it really can be.
And it's just a matter of seconds, so let's go back to the ad and copy the callback in the ad. As you can see, it's not doing much at this moment. It's just checking that if we have an access token, that means that the user is logged in, so we can hide the sign-in button. And otherwise, an error has happened, and for instance, we can log it to the console and check what was wrong. So now I can save it. Last thing that I want to do is let me add another parameter, which is the theme for the button. And this is just because if I specify a dark theme, the button will be red. And given that we have a white background, it will be easier for you to see it.
We do offer several options for sizes of buttons, as well as the theme, the red versus a lighter theme. And you can see all of them in our branding guidelines on our documentation. And you can also see information about if you want to make your own button, which we're going to show you how to do at the end of the episode.
So now, when I load the demo, you can see our big red sign-in button. And when I click over it, it's opening the consent dialog. This is now opened in another window because we are in full screen. But if I wasn't in full screen, it will be a pop-up dialog. And the important thing here to notice are in the first line is telling the user that the app wants to know name, basic info, and list of people they're connected to on Google+. And this comes from the plus.login scope. The second line, because we added the Google Drive scope, is telling the user that the app also wants to view and manage the files and documents in their Google drive.
So this is actually a good thing to note, because no matter how many Google services your app needs to use, your user only needs to log in one time.
Correct. And at this point, if we click accept, bam, we are done and we are logged in. Now, you can see a lot happening because, as we saw, the callback is just hiding the sign in button after a successful login. We can try to do something more in the callback. So, for instance, we can try to get data on the profile of the user and show it on the screen. So let me add to the body a pre-element where we will add the profile info. Sorry for, again.
You know it's live.
OK, there I am. Sometimes I forget how to use a computer. And now we can use the Google API JavaScript library, which is bundled when we load the JavaScript library to render the sign-in button. So the first thing that we need is to load the definition of the Plus API in the client, and we can do this in this way, and then add the callback that will be called after the library has been loaded. At this point, we can call on the client the method guppy.client.plus.people.get, and we can specify as user ID. We can use me because the user is logged in, so this will be resolved to the user that it's logged in. And after we execute it, we can add another callback, which will be return a result, which is the profile info of the user connected. And now we can add this in the pre-element that we added before to the page. So let me find it by ID. And this is profile dot inner HTML equals. And now let's add the stringified representation of the JSON object result, and we can make it a little bit prettier. OK?
All right, let's take a look.
So now if we go back and we reload, I'm signed in. So if you've seen, like, the button has appeared for a while, then it's been hidden after I was successfully logged in, and now I can see info from my profile on the page. This is a good time to tell you, like, a small best practice. It will be better to hide the button in the beginning, and then when you check if the user is logged in, you don't do anything. If they are not logged in, you show the button to the user. So in this way, you will avoid this little effect that you've just seen.
The little flash. So what you can see is we have the button's fully acclimated. Like, we've already got all that working, and you already have user info back about the other user that logged in. But last week we told you guys about over-the-air installs, and I want to stress again how incredibly simple it is to add these once you have sign-in done, right? And so at this point, to drive downloads for your app, for your Android app, for your users, all you have to do is add a single line of code and make one change to the configuration of the API console. And Silvano's going to do that for you right now.
Yeah, so let me show the steps, which are, as Joanna said, really easy. Let's go back to our project in the API console. In the same project that we were using, we need to add another client ID, which will be the client ID of our Android app. So let's click Create Another Client ID. This time it's not a web application, it's an installed application, and we can choose the Android type. At this point, all we need to add is the package name for our app, which, for instance, could be com.example.myapp. And then we will need to add the fingerprint certificate for our application. And you can find instructions on how to generate the certificate on our docs in the Getting Started for Android. And it's a very easy to follow procedure.
It is. And this is a good time to mention that there are 3 things to keep in mind when doing over-the-air installs. One is that you need to own the app that you're going to try to drive installs for, which is why you have to generate the certificate. And if it doesn't match, if the fingerprint doesn't match the original app, then you're not going to be able to push the over-the-air install. And that's why we've already had some questions online, people trying to test over-the-air installs with our sample apps, and it's not going to work for this reason. The other thing to keep in mind is, like Silvano mentioned, if you don't have both of these client IDs for installed and web applications living in one project, they're not going to match, and so you're not going to be able to drive the over-the-air install that way. So make sure that they live in one API console project. And finally, we do have quality control because we are Google and we are Google+, and we want to make sure that we aren't crossing the line toward anything spammy for our users. And so if you have a brand new app, it might not work for over-the-air installs right away. You do need to get some reviews from your users and some really good ratings before we'll start pushing that for you. But just keep trying, get your users started, and then it'll work fine. I guarantee it.
And it's a powerful way of getting your app downloaded to a lot of devices.
That's true.
There's only one change that is needed in the code of the sign-in button. So back to the code, we just need to add the data app package name parameter, and we can do it here. Let me see, package name. And here you will specify the package of your Android app. So for instance, com.example.myapp to follow what I did before. Now we are going to show this to you. We have an already prepared demo, which is using an app that we already have and that it's already passing our quality threshold, so that we can show to you how it's actually working.
And some of you have already seen this app. It's our Photo Hunt app, where we've been using this for demos all across Google Plus and Google Developers Live. And also you can see all of this code in its entirety through our GitHub repository, because we want you to be able to see an end-to-end implementation.
Okay, so to our sample. So I forgot to disconnect, and this is why you didn't see the OTA. Let me do it. So I can also show how to disconnect applications. You need to go to your profile page, About, and then if you scroll at the end, you will find the apps that are connected to your profile. In this case, it's Photo Hunt, and what I want to do is disconnect the application. So I actually need to go to the list of apps to do that. And once I'm in the list, I can now disconnect Photo Hunt. And sorry for this, but we are live. So now
hold on, Silvano, just wait 1 minute. I need to make sure the tablet is turned on before we try to show off over-the-air installs. How are we looking, Lewis?
Tablet is definitely on. A little bit of screen flicker, but it'll work for our demo.
All right, we're just going to show you guys the install, so it'll be fine.
OK, so now when I reload the page, I can see the sign-in button. When I click on the sign-in button, this is the new consent for Photo Hunt, and it's similar to what we saw before. When I click accept, because we have the Android app, now Google Play is telling me, hey, we have an Android app. Do you want to download it? And it's showing me which are my devices. So in this case, it's a Samsung Nexus 10. If I add other devices, it will show me a list of devices. And I finally can click install to have the app downloaded to my Nexus 10. Just see it.
Yeah. Fair warning, it is flickering, but you guys can at least see the install happen. And look at that. It's already here. I didn't touch the tablet. I didn't have to accept anything because I own this tablet, or Silvano owns the tablet and his account is associated with it. We have the app that automatically appears on the home screen. Whoops, shouldn't have touched it. We also have a notification letting us know that Photo Hunt has been successfully installed. And it's that simple to drive downloads for your users with your Android app. All you have to do is add one line of code and make one configuration change, and it's done when they log in for the first time.
And I'm a new Photo Hunt user.
Yes, this is great. Okay, so moving on. Hey, Silvano. The Google Plus sign-in button is really cool, but in my website, I like to fine-tune every single detail, and I have very strict requirements. Does that mean that I can't use the button if I'm not happy with the ones that Google provides? Said every developer ever. So how do we respond?
Don't worry, Joanna. Don't worry, every developer ever. You can still have your own markup, and you can still have all the functionalities of the sign-in button. I will show to you how to do it. There's several ways of doing it. I will now show you the easiest one. But first, let me disconnect the demo so that
we'll see the button again.
We'll see the button again. Now, back to the code. The easiest way of doing it is you can Inside the span, where you are applying the class g-signin, you can add an image or another span or a button where you will style your own sign-in button. And this will be picked up by our JavaScript, and the behavior will be attached to that element. So in this case, I can show you a very simple thing. I have a g+32.png. I downloaded this from our branding guidelines page, where you can find an old set of icons that you can use for your buttons. And most importantly, you can find your branding guidelines, which you will need to follow when customizing the markup for your button.
Exactly.
Now that this is done, back to our demo, I can reload it. Let me reload the correct one.
Good catch.
And now, as you can see, the icon has changed. You will need to style everything. So in this case, if I hover the button, it's not changed to an end. It's still a cursor, but it's very easy to do with CSS. And you can see that if I click, all the functionalities are there. And if I add an Android app and a valid app package name in the button, the OTA install would pop up after accepting the app.
It's easy and quick, just as we promised. And if you want some examples also of some custom buttons that are already out there in the world, you can check out any of our launch partners, which you can find as case studies on our documentation to see what they did with theirs, because a lot of them did want a custom button. It's very common. And of course, you can find out details and explanations in our documentation at developers.google.com/plus. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise them in our Google Plus developers community, because we, like I said, we hang out there and we love to answer questions, and we're happy to, provide advice and let you know. And if you aren't sure if you meet the branding guidelines, just ask us. We're more than happy to help.
Or if, like me, code is your thing and you like to see more examples, check our organization at GitHub, github.com/organization/Google+. We added kickstarts for almost every existing language, Java, JavaScript, Python, PHP, Go, Ruby, C#. And also, as mentioned before, we added Photon, which is our end-to-end sample application. You can now find a Java backend and a JavaScript frontend written in AngularJS, and also the two mobile clients, Android and iOS. And we are working very hard to add more languages and more backends.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to all of that and helping you guys out as much as we can. And of course, if you have an issue in your own development, you can raise a question on Stack Overflow using the Google Plus tag, and we check that daily, if not more often. And finally, if you find an actual bug in anything in the APIs, in our quick starts, raise it in our issue tracker. Let us know. And if you find a bug someone else found, star that issue. We use the stars to gauge how many people are affected by a particular bug, and also how many people are wanting the same feature request. So let us know, and tell us what you think in our issue tracker, and we definitely will take a look at that and use that moving forward.
And remember that we are touring the world. We are around the world in different locations, different dates. So check out if any of the upcoming location and dates are suitable for you, and come code with us, because we will be really happy to code with you and help you build awesome integration with Google Plus Sign-In.
It's true. So we'll see you in the next hemisphere.